Thomas here with Much Props. Going to give you another how-to video. I bought a bunch of stuff from Nebula Studios a while back, and you saw me make a Red Skull helmet using one of their half masks. I thought I would use another one and do something a bit different, so they have this pretty awesome Krampus mask, and this is what it looks like to begin with. I was staring at that mask for like several hours and turning it every which way I could, and finally I kind of thought the forehead up kind of looks like a ant's mouth without the horns on it. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to take a full face mask, cut it in half, and make two separate masks out of it. One will just kind of make a werewolf style, leave it kind of how it is and just maybe add a couple bits. And the ant side, the forehead, we are going to have to carve some pincers and probably a little mouth thingy. I don't know what they're called, but that's the game plan. Today we are cutting up a Red Nebula Studios mask and making two masks out of one. Let's get to building. Now, don't get me wrong, the mask is amazing by itself and needs no embellishments from me to make it awesome. It already is. Red Nebula Studios can be found on Etsy and their work is pristine. I just like making mods to stuff like this because it's low risk for me because I have less time put into it at this point. I looked at it a bunch of different ways and came up with the idea to separate the top from the bottom to make the two half masks. I put on a respirator with a face shield and began cutting into the resin with my rotary tool. You got to protect your lungs and eyes when cutting through resin. The dust kicks up everywhere and you don't want to breathe that stuff in or have a wheel break on you and shatter into a million pieces and cut you in the face. I guess I'll save the horns for another build. I found a close-up of a picture of an ant's mouth area and began carving into the thick 48mm foam I got from TNT Cosplay Supply online. These are actually scrap pieces left over from a previous build that I am now going to carve into with my box cutter to remove the majority of the pieces, then refine the shape with a sanding drum on my rotary tool. Once I like how it looks, I switch over to a stone bit and smooth out all the surfaces. I also go ahead and carve the little mouth thing, which looks like fangs on the front. I think it's called a labium. The things that I called pincers earlier in the intro, I believe are called mandibles. To secure my mandibles in place, I just slather a huge glob of hot glue all around the opening. I use a can of compressed air turned upside down to quickly cool down the hot glue and speed up the process. Once I get all the mouth parts on, I build up a wall of hot glue around the parts to lock them into place. The foam gets 2 coats of Plasti Dip and the resin gets black spray paint for a base. Since Red Nebula has already carved in such awesome detail into their work, I needed to highlight that with my paint job. So I'm using some Platifex acrylic paint and dry brushing on several shades of red to my ant. I start by loading up a dark red, dabbing most of it off on a paper towel, and then dragging it across the high points of the sculpt. As it dries, I add lighter and lighter tints of red until I've built up enough detail to highlight and accentuate its fuzziness, making passes over smaller areas as I go up in lightness. The werewolf gets the same treatment as the ant did, but just in some shades of brown. I made the lighter fur around the mouth area and kind of worked my way out from there. The teeth get painted off-white, then a yellow wash over the top of that, followed by a brown wash near the gum line, and then I drag a little bit of that off-white again over the tips of the fangs to accentuate them a little more to help them stand out. To make my animal masks look a little bit more formidable, I decided to make some faux chunks of meat for them to gnaw on. I simply take more of that scrap 48mm foam and cut in some striations to simulate muscle fibers. You could go all out and add layers of fat and skin to make it a little bit more realistic like the reference image you saw, but I had this plan to kind of cover most of it up with fake blood here in a minute, so I figured those details might get lost in the paint job. To make the gums, teeth, and nostrils look wet, I decided to mix up some 5-minute epoxy to add around over the top. It comes in these handy dandy syringes that squirt out the perfect ratio of both chemicals. You just simply mix it together and then slather it on the areas you want to look wet on both of these masks. I saw SKS do this technique on his Chainsaw Man video a while back, and I've been wanting to try this out on a project of mine. So you just mix up a color. So we're gonna make blood, so I'm mixing a dark red with a little bit of black and then combine the 5-minute epoxy directly into it. The paint will tint the epoxy and make your faux blood look fresh and wet on your mask or prop forever. I definitely see myself using this technique for future gore. The epoxy does have quite an unpleasant odor, so work in a well-ventilated area with a respirator and all of those things, and give it plenty of time to air out and set once you're done before you start wearing the mask. Just like most of my mask builds, I'm using some 1-inch elastic banding and some 2mm foam to secure things in place. I roughed up the resin on the inside of the mask with some sandpaper, superglued down the elastic to the EVA foam, then sandwiched the elastic between the mask and the foam. This will help make a better connection to the elastic to prevent it from sliding off of your mask. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think they turned out pretty epic. They are extremely gory and bloody and perfect. That 5-minute epoxy mixed with a bit of acrylic paint, SKS props, you're like a genius, dude. That little nice mixture there, it makes it look like it's wet all the time. So it's nice, fresh, and slim Jim, thick Jim kills of meaty flesh there. I really like the way these turned out. And it just kind of goes to show you that you don't always have to use things for what they're intended for. You can modify them, be brave, and hopefully not damage up a perfectly good, that kind of works together too. A perfectly good mask, but yeah. Maybe you will try and make these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to split a mask in half and make it into two so that you can share with a friend. Yeah. Maybe you'll get some...
Yay!
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these. Tell them, much props. I'll wear this one, and you can wear the werewolf. So, here we go. Put this on. Cover up my nappy hair. Here. Alright. Hold still so I can put this on. Alright. Here you go. Oh my god, the transformation is complete. You are a werewolf. So scary.
If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see me continue to put out videos like this one, please consider joining these awesome people listed here on my Patreon to build a bigger, better, more creative community together.